Hi everybody, I wanted to make a quick video to explain how to find out if your rig is going to work in the game engine. So I sat down with a few of you to kind of look at this, but if we look up at our Animator's resource kit, these first two rigs are two good examples. So there's this Red Dragon rig and this ASRI rig. One is game friendly, one is not, and the way to figure that out is a couple of tests. There's also a free program you can download called FBX Review. It's part of Autodesk, and I have actually already downloaded that and put it in the ETSU E3 folder for you. So if you go to DIGM Classes, Greg, Character Animation Resources, it's this FBX Review. So let's go ahead and install it really quick. All this is a file or a program that will allow us to open up FBX files and see if they exported correctly. It does something similar to what Unreal does when we import an FBX into Unreal. So if we hit FBX, you'll see that there's the FBX Review, and it's just a little 3D environment that we can see our FBX files in. So what we're going to do is a couple of test exports. So we have this character here. And the way we're going to end up exporting our characters later, but this is how we can learn if this is going to work, is we need to export all of the joints that are driving the rig. So this will be the first clue if this is going to work. If I go to this joints folder here, you see I have all of these joints that are all parented under a single joint called world. Right? So this single joint hierarchy is the first clue that this is probably going to work. I'm going to go ahead and just put some animation on here just to show you. Just a couple of quick frames. Okay, so now we have these 20 frames of animation. I'll go ahead and limit my frame range to 20 as well. And so how we would export this, just to test it, is to select all of these joints in this hierarchy and all of the geometry that those joints are driving. And so these things are very convenient to grab. They're pretty much just everything under those two folders. Once we've done that, we can export out an FBX. So I'll go to File, Export Selection, choose my options box, and I want to choose FBX Export. If this isn't showing up in the list, you may need to load the FBX plugin. It's under Windows, Settings and Preferences, Plugin Manager, but mine has it. Export Selection. I want to make sure that under these options that Bake Animation is checked, 0 to 20, and I'll just export this out onto my desktop and call it Export Test A. And I'll export the selection. It's going to export all the elements, the animation, and it'll tell me when it's done. It'll probably even give me a couple of errors, but those errors are okay. And when it is done, this is taking a little longer than I expected, but we'll wait patiently. So, I'm actually recording. I'll be in there in a second. Almost there, maybe. And just to kind of explain what's happening here, it's exporting all of the mesh and all of the joints and how they affect each of the vertices. So on top of that, it also exports out the animation on each of those joints. And so this is a pretty big rig, so that's probably why it's taking a little bit longer than I kind of expected. But YouTube space is cheap, so there we go. So these are some of the warnings that I get, such as this this warning on the root node, these complex animations baked. I'm like, yeah, I know, that's what I wanted to happen. And unsupported transform nodes, I'm not going to worry about that part too much. So let's look and see if this worked, though. If I go to the export test A, you'll see it's associated with my FBX review. And I open it up, and look there, it exported pretty cleanly. And the cool thing is if I hit play, you'll be able to see that there's some animation on it. Now, how you can tell when this doesn't work. Let's go ahead and look at this other character. Although it's an awesome character, and it's even much better once it has some materials on it. Once we start looking in here, we'll realize the mesh is easy to find. The skeleton that it is skinned to is much more complex. And so, like, it's all kind of hidden in here somewhere, and we have to dig around until we find it. And so I found this local joint under rig. I'm actually not necessarily sure where this is at. So let's find it down here. See if we can find. So you see that there's joints kind of distributed everywhere, and so it's a little hard to figure out what I'm supposed to even be exporting. Let's try to see what happens if I just select everything under the rig. There's also this joint local, but that's just one joint, so it's probably not that. So I'm just going to expand out the rig. And I guess right there's a lot of them in the first little stretch here. So let's just try selecting everything, as I really don't know what else to select. So that selects all the rigs. I'm going to select all the mesh. And oh crap, I forgot to animate something on it. So S E. Let's just go ahead and do a quick animation on it. So we get this. And it pretty much seemed like we were exporting almost everything. File, export selection. Go ahead and choose the animation, and we will go to the desktop. I'll just call this export test B. Export selection. And I don't think this one will take quite as long, but we're going to get a bunch of exporting happening, and hopefully the result, it'd be nice if the result works, but okay. So you'll notice we get an actual error. So part of this rig is being driven by blend shapes or morph targets. So that was some errors. There's some skin definitions that are missing. But either way, it exported a file right there. And so if we double click on it in the FBX review, the first thing you're going to see is that we don't see anything. So that's a clue. But it's also a size thing. So if I start zooming out, you'll see that this is how it understands this rig. So it apparently just doesn't show you any of the model other than the eyes and the tongue. And so this is one of the reasons we would have issues with that. We can hit the play button and it's not really playing the animated skeleton. There's a chance we can figure out what joints to successfully export, but in this case, this is not necessarily a game-friendly rig, and so you would have a lot more problems trying to get this to function in the engine. So my advice would be to choose a rig that goes in smoothly. That way, that's one extra thing you don't have to fight with. and using this FBX review as a way to kind of evaluate some of those rigs to see if they work. I will say a portion of the Truong rigs that we've looked at so far do work. The Truong rigs are the ones that are all the way at the bottom. Animation resource kit. Oh, let's just go to Truong CG. So a lot of these work. The ones I have seen work, I'm pretty sure that we were able to get actually, I don't remember specifically which one. This one I know worked. But test them out. Try to find, if you have a rig in here that you know will work or that you want to try it out with, I would definitely go through this process first. I will say this Psylocke rig, we tried her out, and at least the version that we tried did not work. That doesn't mean he hasn't made some changes, so it will work now. But we had a lot of issues with her. So that is something to mess around with, to try to see if you can figure out which of these rigs are going to be game friendly and which ones are not. So if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.